こんにちは、ハリケーンフットボールです。今回の教材は、サッカー日本代表に関する動画です。もうワールドカップまで3ヶ月を切り、今月末からのインターナショナルウィークでの、スコットランドとイングランドとの対戦も間近に迫ってきまし、たった代表チームを取り上げることが多い、Deadball TV では、少し前に、ワールドカップについて話している動画の中で、日本が期待外れに終わるのではないかと話していますが、それは特に決勝トーナメントでの組み合わせと、日本に対する期待値が過去最高に高くなっているからだと話しています。実際にどのように話しているのか、チェックしてみましょう。
Guys, welcome back to Deadball TV. We got Albert Kim from BB Ballers to talk Asian footy once again. And today's video is going to be agree or disagree. So how this is going to work is we're each going to say a statement about an Asian national team, coach, player, etc. And then we're going to say a number from 1 to 10. 1 is strongly disagree with the statement being said. 10 is strongly agree. I'd stake my entire reputation on that statement. Okay, so we're going to go through these one by one. If you want to see a part 2, then make sure you are subscribed. And of course, if you want to see anything related to either Asian football or the World Cup, make sure you're subscribed to both of our channels. BB Ballers will be linked in the description. Albert, thanks for coming back on. My first one here. Japan will disappoint at the World Cup.
Oh, on a scale of 1 to 10, man, this might
Scale
shock
1 to
some
10.
people because I do respect what Japan is doing. I'm gonna go with a 7.5. Am I allowed to do decimal points? 7.5?
You're allowed to, I will give you the privilege of going decimal points. You're going 7.5. Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I'm saying that is because I watched your earlier video about, the early World Cup predictions. I'm looking at the bracket right now, and I expect Japan to do well in the group stage, especially against the Dutch, because I think they do well against European competition. But there's a good chance they end up playing Morocco, I think, either in the round of 32 or round of 16. And if that happens, they're not. I don't think they make it out of that game. I think Asian teams have a hard time with African competition. I really do.
We can simply define what would a successful or what would a not disappointing World Cup be for Japan. Quarterfinal?
I think that's the bare minimum, right? Considering the expectations and the talent.
I think they're good enough to make a semifinal on talent. I don't think they have the manager for that, so that's a different discussion. I think if they made a round of 16, you would say, like, oh, here's another, like, pretty good World Cup from Japan, right? Like, we would all just move on once again. I think it's quarterfinal or better where you start talking like this was a success or even a glowing success for Japan. So if that is the expectation, minimum round of 16 to be like a net neutral, quarterfinal or better to be a positive, that means to not be a disappointing World Cup, you need to make the round of 16. And like you just said, if Japan wins the group, they will play the runner-up in Group C, who will most likely be Morocco. There is the possibility that maybe a Scotland sneaks in there. I do think that they're physical enough and defensively sound enough to maybe sneak something. Like, it's not an impossibility. It could even be Brazil if Morocco win the group, though. Like,
that Brazil-Morocco game could be close.
Yeah. And I just think if it's Brazil-Japan, I think it's over. Just like that, I think it's over.
And I think part of the reason is that, yes, like we've had questions about Moriyasu for years, going back, Jack, to when we were in our mid-20s, I think now it's like we're looking at Japan, and I also don't rate them in like knockout competition when it comes to penalties and extra time. I think they have a very good team. They have a good system. They just don't got, I think they're a bit meek. And I hate to say that and to play into like a stereotype or whatnot, but I think they don't have the fire, especially when it comes to converting in penalty shootouts to go far in a tournament. And realistically, if you play Brazil, I think the best you can do is try to take them to pens. I know they beat them in a friendly a few months ago in Japan, but again, that's a totally different, that's not the World Cup. It ain't the same. It ain't the same as being in North America in the summer. The weather the Brazilians will be used to, by the way. So the way we look at it right now, just the way it's set up for them, I do kind of have them going out early, which is why I said 7.5. And had it been another manager besides Moriyasu, someone who didn't experiment so much or just make some like weird decisions that don't need to happen, I would maybe say Japan is going to make a quarterfinal. But right now, I got them getting knocked out early like you.
I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And of course, everybody will have a different definition of disappointment. Like for you and me, Albert, people who love Asian football and respect the Japanese national team, at least I think you respect the Japanese national team, then I'm looking, quarterfinal or better. Like this team is so freaking talented. And when they're free flowing, they're one of the most fun, if not the most fun national team to watch.
I mean,
in world football.
We've talked about this before. We said that Japan making it to even a third place match wouldn't surprise us. They have the necessary talent to do that. It's just a matter of putting it together. They haven't. The last Asian Cup was really disappointing. So I think based on history and the manager, this is the way it's going.
The last Asian Cup is still one of the biggest L's in international history. Like, I don't care what anybody wants to say about injuries, about Japan's eyes are on the World Cup. That Asian Cup, 0 clean sheets, losing to Iraq, losing to Iran, having 0 tactical flexibility was a massive concern. And here's the thing with Japan, because since that I'm still fuming when I think back to that Iran quarterfinal. Like, it is the worst managed game that I can think of outside of maybe Jurgen Klinsmann's semifinal, South Korea versus Jordan. Just like horribly managed games where like the manager should be required by law to forfeit his salary that he was set to earn in that game because you didn't do your job. You did not do your job. But anyways, there's a lot of issues for Japan right now. Number one, and I think the biggest reason to support them disappointing is because of the expectations. Like, there's never been an Asian national team, Japan included, going into a World Cup with so many people expecting so much. This has never happened. It's kind of been like a hipster opinion to have in previous editions. Like, I was there in Qatar, like, Japan are making out of the group, and, you know, all my Euro snob friends were like, hell no. Even the Japanese, when I was in Japan, they were like, no, we can't compete. And
Jack
I was like,
was the first disciple. Nobody believed him. They called him blasphemous.
I was out there preaching. I was on the street corner preaching with my holy book, and nobody was listening. And then they ended up advancing, and I thought, I picked them again to beat Croatia, and then they lose on penalties and a really kind of flaccid performance, which we don't need to relive. But they have insane expectations this time around. They still haven't really had a good performance against a great national team recently. Like, even the Brazil win, I encourage you to go back and watch the game and look at some of the goals that Japan had, namely Minamino's goal, if I'm recalling correctly. It's a complete error from a Brazilian third or fourth string center back who will never see the pitch at the World Cup. And it was in Japan, which is a huge difference. I don't really have faith in Hajime Moriyasu as a tournament-winning manager. This is a guy who's, his knockout victories as Japan manager is against Bahrain. And who did he beat in 2019? Iran in the semifinal. I can't remember Japan's quarterfinal. Maybe you can fact check me.
They played Vietnam in the quarters. They beat Vietnam.
Yeah, well, God help them if they can't beat Vietnam in the quarterfinals of an Asian Cup. It's not impressive. So I think he's got a massive question mark. And the last thing is what we've talked about. This bracket is freaking difficult, dude. Have you seen what it looks like if they don't win the group?
I do not. Who they play if they do not win the group? I can tell you.
So if they finish second, they're going to play the winner of Group C, which would be Brazil, right? Brazil or Morocco. Like, take your pick there. And then in the next game, were they to survive, they would play the winner of the runner-up from Group C, which is most likely to be Ecuador or Ivory Coast, or the runner-up from Group I, which is Senegal, France, and Norway.
Yeah.
So that means it's probably... Yes, it's the runner-up from the group of death after you play Brazil. Like, I think they're cooked. There's nothing we've ever seen from Japan to suggest that they can survive that. I think it's over. So they have to win. They have to win the group.
There's a lot of dangerous potential storylines for multiple teams, not just Japan. I think with the way this World Cup is set up, there's so many teams that the brackets can actually be, ironically, be tougher in the knockouts. I think we're going to see some big teams go home early, including Japan. It could get really ugly for Moriyasu, I think, given especially the failure at the last Asian Cup. I know the Japanese fans they wanted blood. They didn't get it. This time the knives are going to be out. The blowtorches are going to be out this time. I'll say that.
I cannot believe Moriyasu is still in a job.
He shouldn't be
Like,
he shouldn't be the
respectfully.
manager. It's a good job.
No.
Somebody else would have wanted to take it. If you asked Renard, he probably would have taken it. People would have taken that over the Saudi job. Could have hired maybe a European-based manager who would have wanted to coach Japan. So I don't know what the JFA are doing when it comes to that. And I think, like you said, they're going to pay in about 4 months here. Yeah.
Even the group itself, do you think Japan or the Netherlands is more likely to win and top the group?
I think the only reason that I have Japan topping it is just because I think the Dutch are defensively vulnerable and the Japanese play well against them. But there could be just as well of a scenario where the Dutch win that. And the other team in the group, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is Tunisia, which
Correct.
obviously not a powerhouse, but they're better than they were a few years ago. And again, it's not like Asian teams always have a straightforward run against these African teams. So, and there's also the thing about Japan is that they tend to beat a good team and then they lose to somebody like random. They lost to Costa Rica at the last World Cup after they beat Germany. Then they beat Spain to make it. So you can never. The problem is you just can't really trust the Japanese side despite all the talent.
You cannot. You cannot trust them. But that's the bull argument, is the talent. Like, because there will be people watching like, oh, you guys are haters, which is ridiculous. I love the Japanese national team. But this is a very difficult knockout pathway, no matter what happens. Obviously, winning the group would be better than finishing second. If they finish second and still somehow made a quarterfinal, I mean, it's the I'm sorry, Albert. It's the greatest performance by an Asian national team at a World Cup. I think that quarterfinal would eclipse Korea 2002. Koreans have lunged for the dislike button. It's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. I'm not taking away too much from that World Cup, but that's where I would stand in that case. I think if Japan are to survive, it is because the talent that we know they have completely clicks. They put it together. They dig deep. Moriyasu's motivational speeches at halftime work. And they take down several giants. I mean, we would be recapping Japan's World Cup with some seriously impressive victims on the, what would I say, on the kill sheet for this tournament.
Yeah, the notch on the belt, I think. Yeah, it just, they don't have an easy pathway. And also, the winner of U8, the Path B, it could be a pesky team. I know Sweden have been bad lately, but if they go through, they're going to have probably Isak and Gyökeres leading the front line. That's not going to be an easy matchup for their shorter center backs on the Japanese team. So I just think that they're in a much tougher pickle than they were in previous tournaments. So yeah.
Even that Sweden game, I think, would be a shootout. I would back Japan to beat the Swedes. I really don't trust them at all. And I know Isak, I'm not sure what his health score is for the World Cup. I think he's in doubt right now. But yeah, that would be good. But if it's the Poles, then like that's a tough physical ask for a Japanese team that doesn't like to get down and dirty.
No. The way you beat Japan is by over the top. You hit them with balls over the top or corners. Taller players beat them. That's how Belgium beat them in 2018 when they were down by 2. They started lobbing into the box and they scored 3 and game's over.
Physical strikers. Yep. Physical strikers just annihilate Japan. Like their back line is, outside of like maybe Watanabe from Feyenoord, some soft dudes back there, man. Like,
it's just
they don't
all
have
finesse.
a dog.
It's finesse.
They don't have a dog. So that's going to be a problem.
次は解説です。今回は難しいボキャブラリーもかなり多くありましたので、これまであまり解説していないものからピックアップして解説しています。それでは本日の解説をチェックしてみましょ
う。They just don't got, I think, they're a bit meek.
ミークは、おとなしい、気が弱いという意味の形容詞です。自分の意見を強く主張しない人や、反抗しない性格の人を表します。ポジティブな文脈では、謙虚で穏やかな人という意味にもなります。スポーツや議論の場面では、弱気、推しが弱いというニュアンスになることもあります。英語では性格を表すときによく使われる単語なので覚えておくと便利です。
They just don't got, I think, they're a bit meek. They just don't got, I think, they're a bit meek.
Where like, the manager should be required by law to forfeit his salary.
forfeit は、失う、没収される、返上するという意味の単語です。特に、ルール違反や自分の判断の結果として何かを失うときによく使われます。スポーツでは、没収試合になるという意味で使われ、契約では、保証金を失うという意味でもよく出ます。ただのルーズよりも、罰や代償のニュアンスが強いのがポイントです。 少し固めですが、とても実用的な単語です。
Where like the manager should be required by law to forfeit his salary. Where like the manager should be required by law to forfeit his salary. And, you know, all my Euro snob friends were like, hell no.
スノブは、気取った人や見下す人という意味の単語です。自分の趣味や知識の方が上だと思って、他の人を少し下に見るような人に使います。例えば、ワインスノブなら、ワインつぶっている人、コフィースノブなら、コーヒーにやたらうるさい人です。少し皮肉のある単語なので、会話で使うときは注意が必要です。
And, you know, all my Euro snob friends were like, hell no. And, you know, all my Euro snob friends were like, hell no.
The first disciple, nobody believed them. They
ディサイポは、弟子や信奉者という意味の単語です。もともとは宗教的な言葉で、イエスの弟子たちを表すときによく使われます。ただし現代では、宗教以外にも使われ、例えば、ある考え方を強く信じる人や、有名な先生や監督の教えを受け継ぐ人にも使えます。会話では少し大げさな比喩として使われることもあり、自分は最初からその考えを信じていたというニュアンスを出せます。
The first disciple, nobody believed them. The first disciple, nobody believed them. They called them blasphemous.
ブラスフィーマー、冒涜者という意味の強い名詞です。もともとは宗教的な言葉で、神や神聖なものをけなす人を指します。日常会話ではあまり使いませんが、大げさな比喩として使われることがあります。例えば、みんなが信じていることに反対する意見を言った人を、まるでブレスフィーマルのように扱うといえば、異端者扱いするという意味になります。
Call them blasphemous. Call them blasphemous.
I was out and then they lose on penalties and a really kind of flaccid performance, which
フラシドは、張りがない、締まりがないという意味の形容詞です。もともとは、物がたるんでいる状態を表す単語ですが、比喩的に、元気がない、覇気がないという意味でも使われます。スポーツの文脈では、チームやプレーについて、迫力がない、締まりがないと言いたいときに使われます。かなり批判的な響きがあるので、相手を強く評価するときに使われる表現だと覚えておくと便利です。
and then they lose on penalties and a really kind of flaccid performance. And then they lose on penalties and a really kind of flaccid performance, which we don't need to relive.
Believe は、再び体験する、追体験するという意味の動詞です。過去の出来事を、ただ思い出すだけではなく、まるでもう一度その場面を生きるように感じるときに使います。特に辛い記憶や、感動した思い出についてよく使われます。Remember よりも感情が強く戻ってくるイメージがあります。スポーツ動画では、負けた試合や悔しい場面を、もう蒸し返したくないという時によく使われます。
We don't need to relive. We don't need to relive.
It could be a pesky team.
ペスキーは、鬱陶しい、厄介なという意味の形容詞です。とても強い悪口ではなく、少しイラッとするものや人、状況に対して使うことが多いです。例えばペスキーフライズなら、鬱陶しいハエ、ペスキープロブラムなら、面倒な問題という意味になります。スポーツでは、強豪ではないけれど厄介な相手に対して、ペスキーティームということがあります。つまり簡単には勝てない、嫌な相手というニュアンスです。会話で使いやすい、少しカジュアルな単語として覚えておくと便利です。
It could be a pesky team. It could be a pesky team.
Yep. Physical strikers just annihilate Japan.
兄が相手は、完全に打ち負かす、壊滅させるという意味の強い動詞です。普通のビートやデフィートよりもずっと強く、相手を全く相手にならないほど圧倒するときに使います。もともとは、無にするという語源があり、何も残らないほど徹底的というイメージがあります。スポーツでは比喩的に使われることが多く、完全に圧倒した、ボコボコにしたという意味になります。かなり強い言い方なので、誇張表現として使われることも多い単語です。
Yep. Physical strikers just annihilate Japan. Yep. Physical strikers just annihilate Japan.
いかがでしたか？日本代表に対する期待値が過去最高レベルに高くなっていることは間違いなくいいことだと思いますが、最近の WBC のように日本が優勝することを期待されながら、ベスト8でベネズエラに負けてしまったことは、やはり期待外れに終わった感が強く、ワールドカップでも、やはりベスト8に行けないことが、大きな失望感に感じることは想像できるでしょう。それでも、今回の組み合わせは、最も楽観的で、日本に優位なトーナメントでの組み合わせを考えるなら、グループリーグを首位で突破し、ラウンド32でモロッコを破り、ラウンド16で カナダ、スイス、韓国、メキシコあたりと当たるのはかなり理想的ですが、グループ2位通過の後、ラウンド32でブラジル、ラウンド16でエクアドル、セネガル、ノルウェーあたりを破らないといけないと考えると、やはりなかなか厳しそうにも感じます。それでも、どのルートでも、どの組み合わせでも、このレベルの国を2回、3回、4回破っていかないと、ベスト8やベスト4にもいけないことは間違いないでしょうし、それを期待されているということでしょうから、怪我人だけが避けようもない、一番の心配でもありますが、大きな期待と楽しみを持って、まずは今月末の試合を楽しみにしたいと思います。本日もご視聴いただきありがとうございました。またすぐにお会いしましょう。